evening, my name is Catherine Barsonistas, and you are watching the Gluttonous Geek presents Munchies and Minis. Munchies and Minis is a live Twitch cooking show, which, you know, obviously, where I first make a Dungeons & Dragons or tabletop-inspired recipe and then work on painting a miniature. I've been doing the 52 weeks of Dungeons & Dragons channel fan art challenge since I began streaming earlier this year. And this particular challenge word this week is healing. So, to go off that, we are making some, what I'm calling a long rest stew. Inspired by the long rest as an 8-hour rest a party would take after major combat where they need to heal up hit points, get back their spell slots and all that sort of thing. So, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight, and I just first need to find my beer opener because I'm going to go nuts if I don't get my beer in my face right now. Beer opener. Watch this be a twist off. Nope. Haha. Bottle opener. There we go. So, yeah, if you were with us last week, we were going over the challenge word of urban adventures. So we made some kind of oyster and bacon meat pies inspired by Fleet's Wake, the Fleet's Wake Festival from the Waterdeep campaign setting. This year, this month, this episode, we're going a little bit more into actual historical cooking and kind of how it would play with a Dungeons & Dragons party. So, what I'm making, and let me give you a little bit of context because I started this recipe, I want to say around 2 p.m. Once I find my pot holder, let's switch to the stove can here. So I started making some bone broth earlier today using a ham hock as well as a bundle of fresh herbs. That is a bundle of thyme, rosemary, and sage. The ham hock you can find about packs at the grocery store and pretty much any grocery store. They're smoked. Essentially, it's a pig's knuckle. There's 3 of them per pack for about $5. And my reasoning behind using these is that, for one, bone broth is extremely nutritious, and you kind of have to wait for the bone itself to simmer down. I'm just going to leave that off so you can see it as it simmers away. Yeah, it's kind of like the end of the leg bone, which has a lot of little connective tissue and bones and everything. It's actually the collagen that you have in that cartilage that is the nutritious part of bone broth, as well as a bunch of amino acids, like various nutrients, that sort of thing. So a good bone broth is incredibly restorative, especially when you've been fighting a horde of goblins. And the idea I also have with that too is that with encumbrance requirements for most D&D parties, you're not going to be able to carry just like giant slabs of ham or anything like that. You're also going to have to think about how long things are going to be in your pack before they spoil. And smoking the ham hock beforehand does help with that. You can buy them smoked, but just for the sake of the argument, you can just buy a couple in town, stick them in your pack, as well as what we're also going to be including in our dish tonight, lentils that I happen to keep in a honey container. Lentils are stupid cheap. They also have about as, I want to say a serving of lentils has about as much protein in a steak without all of the fat and all that to worry about. Also, lentils are dried. You can keep them in your pack much longer. You don't have to worry about meat spoiling. So the idea behind this is that the main things you would have in your pack are ham knuckle, lentils, maybe some form of root vegetable. This is a rutabaga. Potatoes, turnips, in your pack, maybe one each person has maybe one, and honestly something this size, you only have to really carry one to be able to have a meal over the next week or so, a couple of meals over the next week or two. That, and I want to say most goblin camps that you're going to raid are going to have some kind of root vegetable available. But yeah, since it takes about, I want to say, at least 4 to 6 hours to get all of that nice kind of collagen running from the bone that we see on that ham hock over there, it would make sense that a venturing party would set down camp. Whoever's watching the pot can stick the ham hock in there with some water, have it going for a couple of hours, while the rest of the party can look for various they can forage for various ingredients such as mushrooms or wild onions and garlic. We're going to be using some green onions for that aspect. They're kind of similar to wild garlic, or ramps, if you were. And also, since it takes so long for all of that to break down, that means people have plenty of time to rest up, take a nap, repair their armor or weaponry, or just kind of start healing up their wounds, making arrows, that sort of thing. Sorry, my brain just kind of like stopped on me right there at the moment. I need an actual sip of this beer. Don't you ever just kind of have all these thoughts in your head that are all jumping towards the same spot? And you're going, wait, I think I remember this part of it, and nope. And then you're just kind of stumbling over your words. So yeah, like I said, I've had this broth going for the past couple of hours. I'm just going to raise the temperature on a little bit to get that simmer going again. Because when I took the lid off that Dutch oven, it kind of took away what I was doing. Or I can just put the lid back on and we can focus on what I'm actually doing here. So just to give you basic instructions, if you're taking notes on how to do this recipe, you're going to want to start out with that ham hock, which, here, let me show you what it looks like before you put it in the pot. Now, this one's frozen, but it looks a little bit like this. See all the bones and cartilage in there and a little bit of meat? So yeah, what you first do with that ham hock is that you put it in the pot, cover it with water, bring it to a boil for about 5 minutes. Then you drain it, fill it back with water, about 10 cups for this particular recipe. And let me get the lid back on there. 10 cups for this particular recipe, as well as a 1/4 cup of white wine. And for that, you don't necessarily have to use a fancy wine. I use some boxed Moscato. White wine goes very well with pork, so keep that in mind. And it's probably, an adventuring party is going to have some wine on them. I mean, just even a flask of it. So the reason why you're going to want to use wine or wine vinegar or apple cider vinegar, we're just using wine because it tastes better, is that the acid helps the bones themselves kind of demineralize a little bit, so all the nutrients that's in those kind of flow from the hock a little bit better. So keep that in mind when you're making your broth. And I also put, like I said, a bundle of herbs or a bouquet garni. It's a garnish bouquet. So yeah, a handful, however much that means. I use about a package worth of poultry herbs, which are, like I said, rosemary, sage, and thyme. You kind of show you also what I'm talking about and how you want to wrap it. Let's go back to that stove cam view and get my, that's back to boiling. Let's put it back to low. So as you see, I kind of wrapped it around the herbs there, so it captured all of those stalks into one particular bundle. And yeah, like I said, that's been simmering for the past, oh goodness, I want to say 4.5, 5 hours. If you need to add some extra water, if you're going longer, feel absolutely free to. The mixture will start to thicken as it reduces down, Now, you're not really having to worry about the water content so much as you want to make sure that everything is breaking down properly. So adding extra water in case it's boiling off a little too quickly, perfectly fine. And let's see, I put that back in low. Yes, I did. So, right, now that we have that broth going, or having been going, let's go back to prepping the stuff that we're going to put in our stew. So, if you're curious into what I'm drinking right now, it's Sweetwater 420 chocolate stout. I did not know until recently that Sweetwater 420 made stout. They usually make IPAs. This one's actually pretty good, except it tastes a little bit like, it has a finish. It's very similar to a certain herb that is currently being legalized in most states. In the process thereof. So it's like, ooh, chocolate. Oh, wow, weed. Okay, there you go. So, let me get some prep bowls going. So, first, let's get our root vegetable out of the way. This is a rutabaga, which it's kind of it's kind of like a mix of a turnip and a cabbage as far as, its genetics are concerned. But it's actually sort of I want to say sweeter than a turnip, and tastes a little bit like a little less sweet potato. Now, the reason why I went with this rather than, a standard potato is that I'm going off of what would be available in a medieval European setting. If you were thinking, oh, well, potatoes, they're medieval. Actually, no, they are not. That is not to Europe at the time. And just to let you know, the reason why I'm peeling this instead of using the peel is that rutabagas are normally waxed to keep them fresher for longer. And unless you want to have candles in your, you want to make candles with your stew, just get rid of that peel. I'm not even using it for stock. So, just going to peel that off. But yeah, the potatoes that you know and love today were a New World ingredient from South America. Well, you're going, oh, well, that's such an English name. Well, that's the thing. The English would call any kind of sort of roundish root vegetable a potato at some point. And the Scottish call these neeps. But a lot of times when you see potatoes referenced in a medieval recipe, it's usually referring to the good old rutabaga or a turnip. So this one here is about a little over 2 pounds. So, to reference for your own recipe, you're going to want to get about 2 pounds worth of rutabaga. And just get all of that peel off of there. See the little flecks of wax coming off the peel here? Yeah, you want to get rid of that. Tiny little bit left there. There we go. Just gonna shovel that into here and get rid of it. Okay. Cool. Next up, I want to dice that creature there. So, actually, no, let's go with my heavy-duty chef's knife, because this is a larger root vegetable. Now, if something this size kind of freaks you out a little bit as far as slicing things is concerned, just get some smaller ones. Or you can use turnips, which are considerably smaller. Just as long as you get about 2 pounds worth, you're good. So, I want to make this more stable. As you see, I'm holding the knife like this with my index finger against the blade right there and my thumb here to maintain good control of the knife. And I'm just kind of hopefully not going to slice my finger off. Come on. Ha-ha. There we go. And then I just want to make some planks of this. So about, I want to say 1/2 inch thick, roughly. All right. I've got my planks, so now I just need to make batons. And from that, I can make my dice. Easy. It's not like slicing an onion where you have to do all sorts of crazy manipulation because the layers are built into an onion. This, you're just trying to make things roughly the same size. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, you just have to have it around the same size so it takes them about the same amount of time to cook. And often, you can see my plank is sticking to the knife there. I'm using that to kind of line it up. Eh. There. Get back here. A little bit of peel off the end there. All right, it's 1/2 done. Let's get the other done. Yeah, that last bit's not all that great, but it'll be fine. Oh no, it might break down and thicken the stew. Anything but that. Okay. And the reason why it flipped that little plank right there is to keep it from slipping too much on me. A lot of knife work is not just making stuff around the same size, it's also stabilizing it so you don't have your knife slip or your hand slip and end up chopping your fingers off. Now, one thing you might note as you're cutting into the rutabaga is how it kind of smells a little cruciferous, kind of a little bit cabbagey. Don't worry about that. Unlike most cabbages you're going to work with, this stuff actually sweetens up as it boils. Right. Cool. Get those out of the way. Next up, I'm going to slice up my mushrooms. Now this is about 8 ounces of button mushrooms here. And these I just want to quarter. Or, get into about roughly the same size with all of them. Because some of these mushrooms are a bit larger than the others. And once you're done with all this, this should be enough to serve about 6 to 8 folks. Or, one very, very hungry half-orc barbarian. Okay. And for our last bit of slicing, got 2 bunches of green onions. With that, I'm just gonna because I want to separate the white parts and the green parts because these are going to go in different times while cooking. Okay, so that's the white and light green parts of this bunch. And then I'm going to cut these a little bit larger because this is going to add some texture to the soup. So about 1/2 inch. All right. Come on. There we go. Put 1/2 those in one swoop. And of course you want to discard the root ends. And, you know, as you're eating this over a long rest, you can have it continue to simmer. And have breakfast with it the following morning. So, yeah, it looks like a big portion, but it's the kind of stew that will feed you for the rest of the week if you don't have that many people living with you. And we are almost done with all of these. Okay, so let us move to our stove cam. That's not my stove cam. This is my stove cam. Okay. So, obviously I'm going to need a pot holder. So, first order of business, I need to get rid of the ham hock and the herbs. Whoa! See how it kind of just fell apart on me there? Now, if I was super dedicated, I would start like chopping that up and adding meat to the stew. But I'm not going to because that's kind of hard to get out all of that. But I'm going to hang on to that at least for another application to make some ham stock for my home in general. So don't feel like you need to throw any of that away. Just stick it in a freezer bag. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. So, okay, so we have all of that stock just waiting for my veggies, which I'm going to add kind of gradually here so it doesn't splash all over me. So we got the rutabaga, got the mushrooms, and then I'm going to add the white parts of our green onions. So, just gonna add that in there, give it a stir. Oh right, how could I forget? Need to add also a cup and a quarter of whole lentils. These should be just, you know, labeled as lentils at your grocery store. Or if your grocery store is a little bit more specific, they'll probably label them as green lentils or brown lentils. I'm using brown lentils right now. So we're just going to stick that in there as well. Give it a stir. Immerse it into our broth. And I'm just going to add another cup. About a half cup of water. Yeah, another cup of water. Yeah, whole cup of water. Couple of pinches of kosher salt. No, I'm not going to oversalt this. This is kosher salt, which means its salinity is lower than that of table salt. It's got a larger flake to it. Well, it is more of a flake, so it dissolves quickly. But yeah, now I'm just going to raise the heat up on this because I want it to get to a boil. It smells fantastic, I can tell you that. Okay. Is there anything I'm missing? I'm trying to think. Not that I can think of at the moment. Oh, right, I was going to show you I was going to do that stock bag. Cool. So, coming back to our prep board. I'm just going to take a gallon-sized freezer bag here. Or gallon-sized bag, it doesn't have to be crazy perfect. And take all those little onion ends I've got, stick them into this bag. As well with what's left of my ham hock. Hey May Cool, 1233, I'm doing well. Just making some, here I'll show you what I've got on the stove right now. It's what I'm calling a long rest stew. It's kind of off the concept from Dungeons & Dragons of the long rest, which is 8 hours of rest for an adventuring party, so to allow for any kind of healing as well as memorizing spells, or, you know, fixing things. Because this week's 52 weeks of D&D fan art challenge word is healing. So what I've got on the stovetop right now is some bone broth made from a ham hock, which is the lower kind of end of a pork bone. Well, pork leg bone. Some fresh herbs, and I've got some rutabaga, mushrooms, green onions, and lentils in there. How many mushrooms did I cut? I did about 8 ounces, which is a standard pint of mushrooms that you're going to find at the grocery store. The idea is that this is going to be enough to feed about 6 to 8 people, or for those who are rationing, kind of as a stew to get you through the evening and then wake up in the morning to have some breakfast with. So that's the whole concept I have with this. Bone broth in itself is very restorative because as you are slowly simmering that ham hock, it releases kind of all the connective tissue and collagen and amino acids, stuff that's incredibly healthy for you. And also kind of the reason why you would think chicken soup is sort of the cure for the common cold. Because, like old-fashioned chicken soup, yeah, you boil that chicken carcass until it's practically gelatin. Oh yeah, I've been cooking that broth since about 2 today, so it's finally kind of broken down some. I mean, the pig foot the ham hock fell apart on me, which is good because I'm just going to use this whole bit here in my in another batch of bone broth. I've got what's left of my bouquet garni should still be good. Just going to shove that whole thing into there, as well as the other ham hocks that I got recently. Well, I'm going to put another one in there, probably. Let's go with the smaller one since I already have one in there. And I'm going to hold on to this other one in my freezer just for another time, and also so I can make up another batch of bone broth. But I might as well show you what how I normally make stock and broth in my house. Just going to close this all up. How do you clean stains on the pot? On the cast iron? Cast iron, it depends on whether it is covered in enamel or not. Now, enamel-covered cast iron, it's okay to use a little bit of dish soap on it as long as you are hand washing it, and as long as you also season the edges. I can show you what I mean on the pot right here. I'll just put this into the freezer here. So, let's go back to our pot view, our stovetop view here. You see here on this enameled cast iron Dutch oven. It's cast iron but with enamel coating on it, but these edges here are exposed to the elements. So what you want to do when you clean it is that I would say take a little bit of cooking oil on a paper towel and kind of rub it on the edge of there after you clean your pot to keep all the moisture out of it. Now, when you're storing it, it's likely to store most of the moisture out of it anyway, but it's just a good precaution. Now, if you're working with a regular cast iron Dutch oven, what I like to do is get the pot like super hot on the stove top, take it to the sink, and then run cold water over it to release all the solids, and then kind of take a scrubber to it that doesn't have soap on it, get all the extra bits off, put it back on the stove top, get it hot again, cover it with a bit of cooking spray, take a paper towel to it, turn off the heat, and let it just soak in. So that is what you're dealing with cast iron. Now with aluminum, well, aluminum's a pain in the butt. Or aluminum or stainless steel. Yeah, whoever came up with the term stainless steel cookware is an asshole. Yay, there's my first swear of the night. Woo! But yeah, best way to clean a stainless steel piece of cookware after you've done the initial cleaning, you get the stains off with this particular powder cleaner called Bartender's Friend. It's super, super inexpensive. You can find it at pretty much every grocery store. It is a quick stainless steel cleaner that will get all of those stains off your stainless steel pots. I just don't really do it all that much because I'm lazy. So, what is flying into my face? Paranoid now. Okay, so yeah, that's just gonna keep what to keep in mind. So I did tell you about the stock I was doing. So what I like to do, I'm going to make my roommates very pissed off with me, I want to say, in the next couple of hours, because I'm putting this on so late. Not just my roommates, my husband. Because my husband and I have been doing intermittent fasting, which, oh, what now? Okay, so I'm going to be taking some of the stuff I've frozen, putting it in my crock pot to start another round of stock. Just kind of still waiting for the stew itself to come to a boil before I can really do anything. That's another thing about this particular recipe that's kind of good for game groups. You get it going, and then you just let it cook until you're ready for dinner. So, you know, good way to feed your adventuring party for game night. But yes, homemade stock. The easy way. If you have a crock pot at home and a lot of patience, don't worry, it's clean. I just cleaned it. So what I like to do whenever I'm working with any kind of fresh vegetables is take the vegetable scraps. So we're talking carrot peelings, celery ends, onion peels, especially garlic peels. Instead of throwing that away, you can get another bit of life out of them by putting them into a freezer bag. Not individually, just all into the same freezer bag of kitchen scraps. And if you also like to, you know, get a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store at some point. Let's see. It's nice talking to you. Well, thank you so much. Goodness. So yeah, like sometimes I use rotisserie chicken, just bring it home for a game group, especially, you know, if you had game night, I want to say you had brought a chicken for game night last week, put it in a freezer bag for the following week, because then you can take all your leek skins, all of your onion peels, all of that. This isn't completely full, but it's full enough for my tastes. And just put all of that into your crock pot. The freezer keeps it from going disgusting and bad. And it allows you to kind of build up as you're going throughout the couple of weeks, because you don't always have time to, oh, thank you. Yeah, you don't always have time to, like, make fresh food all throughout the week. So, you know, you have your crock pot, you have your freezer bag just ready for you whenever it happens to be full. So, once you do that, I need to find where I put my measuring cup. It's not, aha! Well, need a larger measuring cup. Or I can just use this bowl. You want to then, I want to say, cover as much of the stuff you have in there as possible. I tend to go about 14 cups of water, roughly 12 to 14. So yeah, just kind of pour that over there. You don't have to really measure it so much as long as you fill the crock pot. Not to the brim, just as much as you're comfortable to. Okay. Isn't it better to prepare food than just warm it later on? It is, but I also know that time is always a factor. Time, patience, and we all admittedly have a billion other things to do. Oh, and it looks like my stew is boiling. So, let's see what I mean there. Got that boiling. So now I'm going to put the lid back on. Set it to low. And then set my timer for, let's say, about 25 minutes. I'm also going to get a fan on it because it's starting to warm up my kitchen. Lower the heat. Yeah, currently I had it at very high to get it to start boiling. And then when you put the lid on it, like I showed you, it keeps a lot of the heat inside of it rather than escaping out of the top. So when you put that lid on, it keeps it at a good simmering temperature, just like when you're making rice. So I've got the lid on there to kind of keep it in that kind of simmer boil. Might have it a little bit higher. It's going to boil either way, but I really just want to get those rutabagas nice and tender. So as you can see here, back in my crock pot, it is full. So just going to shift that over to where my outlet actually is, which is on the other side of this island, which you can't see. But you see what I mean. You basically fill the crock pot, plug it in, cover it up, and have it cooking on low for about 8 hours. So, just gonna get my lid out. And I will admit I did this to also free up a little bit of space in my freezer as well. So I'm just gonna secure that on. And let's see. Low for 8 hours, and that's going. Okay, cool. So that's just gonna be boiling away. Hi. Come on, Squeaker. Up, ups. I'm not. Meows. Oh, where we wondered where she was. Here she is. Hey, pretty girl. Mwah. I love you too. Yeah. Here she is. Here's my Ginger. Mwah. Just sit in Mommy's chair. Okay, let's see how that stew is doing. Let's go to the stove cam here. Let's see, mic's still on? Okay, good. Hopefully it's not too loud. That's looking good. All right. So now I'm just gonna mix in what's left of these green onions. As well as more salt. And then just cover that for another 10 minutes. There we go. Hi. Are you waiting for me, princess? Oh, squeakers. Squeakers. It's my little girl. Yeah, there we are. Mwah. That's my baby girl. Okay, can mommy get back to painting? She's like, I'm hoping you would. I just wanted something tasty, not to be picked up. There you go. There you go. Whew. Something tells me I don't have quite the best lighting to get the details in here. Well, goodness. Let's see how that stew's doing. I would say that that is good and cooked. I'm just going to lower the heat right now so I can taste it. Well, I'm definitely going to want to have one of my more rustic looking bowls. I'm going to keep talking while I'm on the phone, while I'm on here with you. Because, yeah, I realized that I did not actually bring my serving bowl down for my photo. So you guys can look at what this looks like when it's on a nice photo. Ah, here we are. I've got two options here. The life of a food blogger, folks. So, let's there we are. It's one option. Or not liking that as much. No, I think the bowl works. There you go. Some long rest stew. Cool. Alright folks, I think I'm going to cut Munchies and Minis short tonight because I am exhausted. It's been a very long day and I've been making soup pretty much for most of it. So thank you so much for joining me this week. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the next 52 weeks of D&D fan art challenge word is for this upcoming week, but I am sure I'll come up with something for it. In the meantime, I think I might stream tomorrow of the Little Shroud of the Avatar if you prefer watching that. And yeah, my name is Catherine Barsonistis. You are watching the Gluttonous Geek Presents Munchies and Minis. Thank you so much, and you have a great night.